Ziggy, welcome to the show. I call you Ziggy, and I'm gonna brand you as Ziggy on the bottom of the show when we do it, because I just think it's a cooler name.
Thank you.
So welcome to the show. Obviously, we've worked together for a little while now. Was introduced to you by one of our other clients. And gosh, how your business has changed since we first met. But for the sake of the audience, tell everyone what it is you're doing, what the business does, and then we'll get back into sort of your background prior to that later.
Sure. So I'm the founder of CarClarity, and to make it really easy, we're really trying to improve the process of buying, financing, and owning a car.
Yep.
And we've been doing that for the last 2 years now. We launched in 2019, and as you mentioned earlier, we've had very good growth to date.
Massive.
And ready for the next stage.
So we met. I remember coming into your office. There was 2 of you.
Yeah.
Just you and your co-founder, right?
Yeah, correct.
And you had a couch.
Yep.
And about 8 desks. And there was just the 2 of you in there. I remember well.
Yep.
And now, how many have you got?
I think we're about 21 people now.
21 people in 2 years. That's pretty much one a month.
Yeah.
And 2 rounds of funding down.
Yep.
And taking the world on, right?
Definitely, man. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about CarClarity. How does it improve the buying? And it's more focused on used than new, or is it equal?
It's both. Definitely both.
So talk me through it. Talk me through how the platform works.
Yeah. So look, I think if you look at the current market, it's very fragmented. So you have very different funnels for buying a car, finding it, financing it, and insurance.
Yep.
And they're all very different verticals, and they have their own processes behind it. And the purpose behind CarClarity is to make that whole experience very seamless. So we can help you find the car, we can help you finance it, and protect it for you straight away.
Yep.
And instead of going to all these different places and channels to get those products, we've created a platform that can make it really seamless and streamlined.
And it's all done online, right?
All done online.
So it's completely self-service.
Correct. Yeah.
How cool.
Exactly.
How cool. All right. Now tell me. We'll get into the product a bit more in a little bit. I want to know how you ended up being a founder, because all founders come to that aha moment through a certain journey. And I love your journey. I think your journey is quite fascinating. So run the viewers through pretty much how you ended up getting to where you are now. Yeah,
so I think entrepreneurship has been in my family for as long as I can remember. My parents have always owned businesses. I've tried everything. And in school, I used to sell stuff in school to my school friends. I always had that kind of... more around like clothes and like DVDs and stuff like that.
Yep.
Actually, used to make a lot of money as a 17-year-old in school. But really, it came down like over the last 14 years, I've been working in the fintech space, predominantly in sales leadership roles. And I've always been obsessed and loved cars. I've bought over probably 10 cars in the last 10 years, and my wife hates me for it, but we are where we are now. So, and pretty much in my last kind of 2 roles at a company called Prosper, which is quite a large business lending platform, and Plenty, which was called Rates at the time.
Yep.
I got really involved in Plenty in the consumer finance world from a product and business perspective, got more ingrained into how the business operates. And when I was dealing with the brokers, which was our main distribution method, I realized that there was a very big gap in transparency. And for me, I've always wanted to be a entrepreneur or founder and do my own thing. And towards the end of my time there, I just, it was just the right mix of time, capabilities, and network. I think there's a really interesting time that I came across, like, okay, now's the time to go and do something. And I kind of knew what it was, but not fully what it was, and just jumped the ship. So I think I mentioned to you before how we founded CarClarity was I sold my house that I just built a year before, had my 3rd kid, and it was very tough, right? And it's still challenging, but we had 2 rounds of funding now, and we're off to the next part of the scale.
No, look, you're the classic founder. You put it all on the line. You sold the house, you took the money, you threw it into a business. Which is, that's your home, and you've got 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big call. And I love it because I hear the story from a lot. And, I've obviously just started my 3rd business, and obviously I have 2 kids now coming up to teenagers. It is a little bit different when you've got kids, and a lot of people use that as an excuse. And I love it when people don't use it as an excuse, because they go, oh, no, I've got a family now, I can't possibly take that risk.
Yeah.
And it's good to see more people doing that. And it's a big call. It's a big call. So when you were at those two, both Plenty, Rates Setter and Prosper, you were actually involved in those businesses during massive growth. Like you joined both of them quite early on, didn't you?
Exactly.
So you really saw that blueprint, I guess, of how to scale a business and what's possible, because some of these businesses grow at such a phenomenal rate. A lot of people they can't get their head around it. They can't understand how you achieve that. Do you think that going through that yourself just gave you that belief that it's possible? Is that
100%? I think there were two very different companies, and what I learned very well from Prosper was more around the founders and culture.
Yep.
Right, how to get the team involved, how to really build a strong common mission to go after. That was one thing that really ingrained with me when I was at Prosper. And then at Plenty, it was really around more how the business operates, how product works, how marketing works, how sales works on a deeper level. And I think, you get those learnings from those companies, and when you go do your own business, which I have, you take all those learnings and you just try and initiate it, and try and execute it. And, for this, we got a lot of things wrong, but, as long as they're calculated and we're doing the right steps to do something, then if we fail, that's fine. We just learn and we keep moving.
I think it's, the failure thing's obviously part of anything, right? And there's many famous quotes about failure, which we will not get into now. But I think it comes down to the belief. I think failure is only failure if you see it as failure. It's just believing you can, whatever it's gone wrong, it's just a problem. It's not necessarily a failure.
Exactly. It's not an end.
No, God, no, it's not the end. Heaven forbid. How did you meet your co-founder? I actually never asked you this question.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got two co-founders, David and Luke.
Yep.
David's our COO, Luke's our CTO. I've known David for 13 years. So we met at Flexi, which was Hum.
Yep.
Right, we worked there together in the call center. And we actually reconnected at Prosper because there's a lot of ex-Flexi Hum staff that went on to work there. And we've just known each other for a very long time. Been good friends, and really when I was in the phase of creating CarClarity, we caught up and really took him into my thoughts around what we're going to build, and he really wanted to join and is also an investor as well. So that's David. And Luke. Luke actually, when I sold my house and I used that money to build...
He wasn't the one that bought it, was he?
No, he's the one who took my money. So he worked for the agency that I went to help build the first version of the platform.
Right.
And during that process, we got along very well, and he was looking for his next kind of...
He's a tech guy, isn't he?
He's a CTO, engineer.
Yeah.
And, thought that what we were building was quite exciting and big opportunity, and approached me to become, our tech lead, our CTO. And now we've got a team of 3 strong founders, I think, taking the business forward.
Absolutely. And I think you play nicely off each other. It's a good mix. All right, let's talk about the platform. So, as you said, this gives you this platform, self-service, gives you the ability to buy a car, gives you the ability to finance the car, and gives you the ability to insure the car, right? How did you bring that together? Because the amount of moving parts, like if you think about finance, gosh, there's lots of providers. If you think about insurance, there's lots of providers. Now, if I'm on your platform, I'm going to want to have access to as many of those options, I guess, as possible. How do you bring all that together so quickly? Because you obviously have continued to grow on that as it's gone, but the platform was together. You put it together really, really quickly at the beginning. How did you do that?
Yeah, so I think the first thing we started off with was the finance platform.
Yep.
And that was definitely the most difficult piece for us. We spent about 6 months just really trying to think about how we can structure this product in a way where the customer is always the main focus point for whatever we do. So if the finance platform, to go in more detail, it basically takes all of our lenders. We've got 30 lenders on the platform.
Yep.
All their data, all the policies, all their pricing, and essentially we just use integrations and customer inputs to give them a high chance of an approval or a match for a loan.
Makes sense.
So within 60 seconds, you can get a car loan match.
60 seconds?
Yeah.
Wow.
Very quick. And then we have a team internally that really help the customer, give them comfort that they're making the right informed decision. And they're our finance brokers, and they're all accredited and licensed. And what we found really funny was that early on, we thought we are going to go down a full digital route, which is still what that we're working towards. But customers actually really like to speak to a specialist to make sure they're making the right decision, they understand what's going on, and they have help to close off their loan.
Yep.
Right. And that's actually the hardest part, is actually not getting a customer a match on approval. Actual hardest part is actually getting the customer into the car and that settlement occurring. So that's one of the first things we're focused on. And we're making good inroads there. We've still got a roadmap ahead to make it even better. And then we just recently soft launched a car buying product, which we have access to over 300 dealers. And you tell us what car you want, and we basically go and source it for you from our 300 dealers, and we tie the financing to it and insurance as well.
Cool. So you buy the car online?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Totally.
How do you do that with used?
Yeah, so used is much more difficult. Used
is it's like the biggest minefield in the world, right? Used cars.
It's a minefield, and the reason why it's a minefield is that every used car is so unique.
Yep.
And every customer buying used car is also unique.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to match
my business.
Yeah, exactly. So to match those two together requires a bit more of a depth of a product where you actually most likely become like a used car dealership, right?
Yep.
We're not quite there yet.
Not quite there.
But it's something that we're looking at closely, and there's been a lot of activity globally around that kind of structure. So, but it is much more difficult for those few reasons.
Okay, I was talking about this with the previous guest we had on, and I'm going to ask you about it now as well, because this has blown my mind, and I haven't even told you about this because this literally only happened to me yesterday and today.
Yeah.
So I'm in between cars, right?
Yep.
Which is fine, and you know how hard it is to get new cars. COVID, it's impossible, right?
Yep.
So I'm without a car for a period of time. We have two children. We have a boy and a girl. We need two cars. They never want to do the same thing. They never go to the same sport. Never go to the same school. Nightmare. So I've got to get access to a car. So bar renting one, I thought, well, I'll just rent one long time. So I've gone and I found car subscriptions.
Yep.
Is this? So I didn't even know this existed, right? So you can subscribe to a car and then you can have it as long as you want and cancel it any time. Is this something you're going to look at bringing into the platform?
Yeah, look, definitely.
It seems very embryonic in what I've seen. It doesn't. No one's really nailing it yet.
Yeah. So there's a few companies out there, like Car Bar, for example.
That was the one I was looking at.
Yeah. And we know the guys there really well, and we're doing some stuff hopefully in the future. But car subscription it's a new way of buying or paying for a car, right?
You never own anything.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
Interesting. I don't know how that's going to go.
Yeah, well, my thoughts are like, if you look at globally around the world, there's been a lot of investment, and manufacturers actually starting to look at car subscription as an actual vertical for them to get more access to customers. And I think customer needs are changing. I think there's a world where car subscription has a market share, and so does car financing ownership, and they work together with each other.
I like to buy. I want to buy one. I want to own my car. It's like owning a house. It's the same thing. But I was just interested to know your thoughts on it, because literally I'd never seen anything until 2 days ago. It's blown me away.
Look, it depends on your needs, right? If you're a customer that doesn't travel too much, and you're around the city areas, and ownership's not a big piece for you, car subscription all the way.
That's a bit like the Go Get thing that came out. But this is perfect for me for the next 6 weeks. It's like awesome.
The cool thing about car subscription, like with car, but there is a sense of ownership a little bit on the car, less around just renting the car and dropping it off. The car is technically yours. It's in your house, and it's yours until you want to give it back.
Yeah, it's kind of like car renting, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So I've told you about this before as well, and I know you've got friends who've come on this show, and you've watched a few of the episodes. We always like to celebrate successes, but we also like to make sure that a lot of budding founders that watch this show understand that it's not all swings and roundabouts and basketball and table tennis and beanbags and easy and fun times. It's really, really hard work starting and running a business, particularly in those early years. For you, if you look at the last 2 years, what's probably been the hardest thing, and what was the positive that came out of it, the hardest thing to overcome? Because there's varying levels of difficulty as you go down the journey, right? Yeah,
it's an interesting question. So there's a lot that comes to mind, but I'll think about some of the main ones. I think it's just really once you being a first-time founder, it's quite different. If I was to do it a second time, it'll be much more smoother, right? So I think the first thing is learning about how to run a business, learning about business structures and how equity works and all those things. They're very big things that most people make mistakes on, right? And I think the other thing as well is the biggest thing I found is just talent, attracting good people into the business, right? I think that's probably, actually at the moment, it's the number one problem for most. It's an
extraordinary time though.
Yeah, it is. But we can't pause time. We've got to keep moving, right? And this is the thing in Australia at the moment. It's very difficult at the moment to find good people, and it's a very competitive market. So I think that at the moment is the current challenge I'm dealing with. But at the start, it was just running a business, starting it up, and getting investors on board and learning that whole cycle of I think they call it the miserable march, where you just speak to like 20 funds, and then most of the time you have one that believes.
I've not heard that before. Is that what they call it? The miserable march around the VCs? Is that what they mean?
Yep.
So how did you go? Because those businesses you worked in obviously raised capital, but you probably weren't involved in that yourself. So how do you, and it's probably one of the most confronting things for anyone to go through. And it's also, and I've learned this over the last 2 years of working with lots of founders, it really consumes you, right?
Yeah.
So how did you go in terms of, one, getting your head around it, and two, not letting it overwhelm you so that the business actually began to suffer, which I think is one of the biggest problems I see.
Yeah. So I think we've actually had 3 rounds. The angel round will include that. Yeah. So the angel round, this is really good. Like, my feedback is just talk to people that you work with before, friends and family that want to back you, right? For us, our first one, we got like 12 or 13, I think it was, fintech executives or senior leadership people across, the companies that I work for, actually backed us and got us from,
That's awesome.
A goal. So our milestone was to raise a certain amount of money, give ourselves a year, get to the next point. But in that next point, 6 months prior, we start talking to venture capital funds to get introductions from our network to other people. And that's really what we played to our advantage, is that we had a network established already very early on that were supporters or investors and were sticky with us, and they wanted to see us succeed. And they put us in touch with everyone they knew. And that's how we got our lead investor on board, Equity Venture Partners. Yeah.
Cool. And did you enjoy that learning process? Because it is a learning process. I mean, it's so different to anything else anyone's really ever done before. Yeah,
look, I definitely enjoyed it because I learned a lot.
Because you got to keep doing it, right? It never stops.
Yeah, it never stops. And I enjoyed it because I learned from it, and it gave me a new skill set. So I've really leveraged our network as much as we could to get insights and things to think about.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you as a founder have to make your own decision and do your own research to validate your thoughts around why you're doing things. And venture capital for us is always going to be the goal. And I'm glad we got a fund on board. But, really, I loved it because it really gave me another aspect of the business that I didn't know before.
Yeah, it's definitely a growth phase, that's for sure. That's good. All right. Let's talk about what you just mentioned, getting and finding people. So finding people is particularly challenging at the moment. I would very much agree with that. And I've never seen a market like it in my life. And we talk about this a lot. What do you think you can do as a founder? And I think you guys do this very well. We've talked about this. Whenever anyone interviews with you, whether you like them or not, they want to work for you. It's extraordinary. So you're something that you're doing that's really working. What do you think it is that you're doing in your hiring process that is, it's not just the business, it's not just that. I actually think I know what it is, but I'm interested to know if you do.
Like, personally for me, I genuinely want people to come on board and work for us. And I genuinely believe in what we're doing and our vision. And when I approach people, I don't approach it where, tell us why you should work for us. It's more about why I think you should come on board and what I think, why you like working here, and really getting that enthusiasm and energy with these people. Because I try to think about, like, when I speak to somebody, how are they going to remember us, right? And at the moment, it's actually me, right, as the founder, right? And if they can remember that, really energetic, passionate founder that I spoke to, that's very different to what they experience day to day. And, we have a very high success rate of, when we speak to people, getting them to come on board. But the challenge is actually finding the good ones to get to that point. So I think it's this energy and enthusiasm, and really getting your belief in the business of what you're doing across in a way that's articulated in the right way.
I think you've hit it on the head. I think the simplest way of describing that, you give them a really beautiful experience.
Yeah.
And that's what they want. They want to be, everyone wants to be wanted, right?
Yeah.
But I think you've got to make them remember you. They might be interviewing at 6 or 7 different companies, right? And they might all have passionate founders, but not all the passionate founders necessarily give them the experience. And I think the fact that you explain the opportunity, but you focus on why they will enjoy it, there's not many people that do that. They'll say, this is why you want to work here. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going. But you focus on why they would enjoy coming to you. It's quite interesting that, and I think that's your natural manner. I think you do know why you're doing it. So that's good. All right, let's get back to you a little bit. Everyone wants me to sort of dwell on the last 2 years. And the last 2 years is pretty much the whole time CarClarity has been around. But is there anything that's happened in those 2 years that has changed you? And what I mean by that is, and we've talked about this as well, candidates are looking for different things. People's beliefs have changed. The way people view the world has changed, sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously. And I think it's happened across the world. Is there anything that's happened that has changed a belief that perhaps you had, and it could have been because of the pandemic, or it could have been because you become a founder? Or is there any new crazy habit that you've picked up? Maybe both, maybe most.
So there's a few things as well that comes to mind. I think the first thing is my belief is stronger than ever. I think it's so funny, like when we were pitching CarClarity like two and a bit years ago, nobody really took an interest in cars or car finance or that experience. Fast forward to now, there's been a global explosion around car, auto tech, and finance. So all the stuff we were saying 2 years ago, people are coming back saying, actually, you're right.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, it is definitely. And I think that's what's changed is my beliefs is even firmer now in what we're doing. And I think as well, like for me, you have to have that belief if you're going to raise capital.
Yes,
right?
You can ask people to part with their money. Right?
It's as soon as you take people's money, it becomes it becomes really real very quickly. Yeah. And I think we've been lucky enough to have a really great bunch of investors from the start to now, and getting their belief and backing to what your vision and your team are doing is the main thing you want to get when you go down the venture capital route. So,
I'm intrigued by this. I mean, I had 3 businesses, but we've never had any backing because we're services businesses, so we haven't necessarily needed that money to build a product, right? So I've never had that. But I know that as a founder, and I'm sure you've discovered this, you feel a great sense of responsibility for your employees, right? And you also feel a sense of responsibility for their families. Like you're suddenly, 22 people, you're essentially looking after probably 90 people with the decisions you're making, right? And that's always weighed heavily on me. I imagine that is accentuated tenfold when people are giving you their hard-earned money, as in investors. Not so much maybe VC funds when it's their business, but particularly angel investors. Yep. How did that just really sort of smack you in the face when you suddenly got the money in the account and thought, oh my God, I've got to make sure I don't stuff this up?
I actually really approached it in, I think, the best way, where I made it really clear to our angel investors, this is a high-risk investment, okay? This is super high risk. Like, I'm pre-product. This is very high risk, but you know what I can do.
Yeah.
And I've worked with you guys before. You know how I am. And really, I made that very clear for our angel investors, just to make sure. But luckily, it's worked out so far, so good. But I think we've just been really clear on, when you're raising money from angel investors, they generally understand the risk, right? Because
they should do, yeah. Otherwise, they shouldn't be doing it.
Correct. But a lot of our investors in the angel round were unsophisticated investors. So for them, it was the first time. So we just had to make sure that we're really comfortable, real understanding of what could happen and what can happen, and there's pros and cons, and letting them make the decision to back me.
Well, they should be happy now, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. What about habits? I think I've talked about this on many an episode. I think I've told you quite a few times as well. I've started swimming, which is something I never thought I'd do.
Amazing.
And it is good for you, and I am getting older. We won't touch on that. But so I've got to be gentle on the boat. But is there any habit that and maybe it's driven by the fact that you're working from home, or maybe it's not, but is there any new habit that is, and it might have come just by starting a business? I don't know.
Yeah. So I think there's a few things. So I think the first thing is just minimizing distractions. So on my MacBook, turn off my notifications permanently. So I never have any notifications at all. Just so I can really focus.
That's a good idea. I've done that on my Outlook as well, because it used to pop up in the corner. It's really distracting.
It's very, very distracting. So I've turned off every notification on my, so I get none at all. I think that was one of the biggest things that I've changed since I started CarClarity. At the start, it was very tempting just to click on every email.
That's why you never respond to my emails, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think as well, like, it's funny, like, being a founder now, I actually spend more time with my kids. Which is a good habit.
It's a very good habit.
It's really hard to explain. I was trying to explain this to somebody recently, but when I was working for somebody, I was very focused on work, and now that I'm a founder, I kind of know that I'm spending more time on work, and I'm actually conscious to give time to my family.
Yeah.
So I do more things with my family on the weekends more than ever, which is really weird because you think it will be the opposite, but just because maybe I'm conscious of it that I'm investing so much time.
Do you think it makes you more? I probably don't spend necessarily more time, but I'm a lot more present, if that makes sense.
That's the best way to explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The way you said it's best. I'm more present.
Yeah.
With them. I sound like a bad dad now, but yeah, now now I'm spending more time with my family, and because they also sacrifice as well, coming on this journey, right? And
it is a sacrifice for the whole family. There's no question, because you're distracted. Your mind is ticking, and you don't sleep, and all this. It's a funny old world to be in.
Actually, that's probably the last habit. I sleep, but I don't sleep, right? which is I'm technically have my eyes closed, but my brain never stops working, and I never have a good sleep, which is a bad thing. And I got to get some tips, maybe exercise or working as a way to get there. But that's probably one of the things that I got to start working on.
So I'll tell you what I do, because I struggle with that immensely. And because now we've started opening in other countries, I'm doing a lot of stuff at night for UK and the US. So I try and take time in the day to spend time with the kids, which, you know, my day's all over the shop now anyway, but we won't go into that. But what I found helps is definitely reading and I know and chamomile tea. Honestly,
Really?
I never believed in this. I'm not a big tea person, even though I'm English. I'm not a big tea. I'm a coffee person, right? And at night, I'd either drink sparkling water or I might have a glass of wine or something like that. But I'd never really tea. I started, it was only about maybe 4 months ago, chamomile tea. It honestly, it really helped. Chamomile tea and reading a book. And try not to make it a business book, because if you've got a business book, all you do is think about how you can apply all the ideas you've read. Try that. And there's something else that I've read this week. I'm reading a book, Mark Burris's new book called Rise, which is really interesting. I'm a big fan of his, so I like listening to his. But he talks about divergent thinking. I don't know if you've seen that. His view of everyone needs to be doing divergent thinking, particularly business owners. And divergent thinking is really just sitting there, not thinking about a business problem, just thinking about different ways of approaching things. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't even have to be business related. I'm still learning about it, so I'm hoping I'm quoting it right. But he said every human being needs to be doing divergent thinking. So I'm going to do a lot more research into that.
Yeah.
So again, you can start researching subjects. You don't necessarily have to read a fiction book. I'm not a big fiction book. I like biographies. But I'm going to research this topic. It's going to be my new thing. And I'll do that always. I now have a hard stop at a certain time. Otherwise, I can get carried away. And then I will spend at least half an hour chamomile tea and a book. And I find I sleep a lot better. And I don't wake up so much. Often I'll wake up with ideas. I used to wake up with ideas a lot because my brain hadn't quite gone to sleep. Give it a go.
Yeah, I wake up probably 3 to 4 times a night, to be honest.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's not like I think the stress is the wrong word. It's more that I'm just like just don't switch off.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, look, hopefully chamomile tea will work for you. But if it doesn't, try something else. Maybe it's something more fun, like a slice of pizza. That'd be good.
I love pizza.
All right, last question. And this is the one that I really want you to talk about this like you would in an interview, because I know how well you do this, right? So you're obviously going to continue to grow, big times ahead. Someone watching this show, so maybe we've sent it to someone who's actually coming to meet you for an interview. You never know. Why would anyone want to come and work for CarClarity?
Yeah, look, I think why you want to work for CarClarity is if you want a role where you're genuinely given strategic direction and input into how we guide our products, which is focused on our customers. That's why you should join CarClarity. And I think the second thing is, we've got a really good opportunity here to change the way people buy, finance, and protect their cars. And that's something that I really want to charge as our focus point moving forward, is how can we be Australia's household name for cars? Yeah.
Okay. That's a big statement. That's cool. I like it. Fantastic. Ziggy, thank you so much. It's good to finally get you on. I think you're one of the hardest ones I've had to get on because you've been so damn busy fundraising and doing everything else. I'm glad we've had you on.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're in with the new set as well, rather than the blue one. You like? I'm quite a fan of it.
It feels very warm.
Yeah, which is crazy because we're heading into summer. But we had the blue one during winter. That was silly. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on, and I can't wait to watch the business continue to grow.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.